There's a pattern in Jada Pinkett Smith's marriage that most people missed in real time. She didn't blow up her marriage in one moment. She did it slowly, publicly, and deliberately over decades. Yet, somehow, she's still being treated like the victim of the story. Are we for real? But when you line up the full timeline, starting before she even said, I do, only one person was dismantling that marriage on purpose, and it wasn't Will. Every woman watching this has either been Jada, known a Jada, or is about to become one if nobody says anything. This is not about taking sides. This is about looking at a 25-year-old public record and calling it exactly what it is. Here is the hard truth. You cannot enter a marriage already unhappy. Air your husband out to the world. Sleep with his associates. Film him in his own home without permission. Ignore every person around you begging you to stop. Write a book all about it. And then act surprised when there is nothing left to salvage. Most people think Jada's marriage fell apart at the red table, but her own interviews tell a different story. By her own admission, Jada entered this marriage already unhappy. She chose Will. Nobody forced her. She could have said no. She didn't. That matters because it reframes everything that came after. This was never a marriage that fell apart. This was a woman who was already on her way out before she ever walked in, and spent the next 25 years collecting everything she could on the way. When a woman enters a covenant, she has already decided she doesn't fully want. The man in that marriage is not a husband. He is a placeholder. And Will Smith, one of the most successful men in Hollywood history, spent decades being exactly that, a placeholder without knowing it. The Red Table Talk started as a Facebook watch show where Jada, her mother, and her daughter sat down to have open conversations. On the surface, it looked like transparency, but over time, it became the single most damaging tool used against Will Smith in their marriage. When the August Alsina story broke, Jada said she planned to address it publicly on her own. Will heard that and voluntarily said, I don't want you up there alone. I want to support you. He showed up to protect her, and she used his presence as content anyway. But it gets worse. Her manager begged her not to air it. Her producer begged her. Her PR team begged her. Her own sister begged her. Every person in her inner circle said, do not do this. And here is the part that removes every defense she has ever offered. She owns that content. She had the power to pull that episode entirely, and it never would have aired. She chose to air it against everyone's advice. That is not a woman speaking her truth. That is a woman making a calculated decision about whose career and dignity she was willing to sacrifice for ratings. The red table was never a healing space for their marriage. It was a confessional booth where Jada controlled the narrative, collected the audience, and Will sat still and paid the price. In 2020, singer August Alsina publicly claimed he had a relationship with Jada with Will's blessing. What followed was a masterclass in how not to handle a marital crisis. Jada confirmed the relationship but reframed it as a period of separation. She called it an entanglement. By softening the language, she softened her accountability and made herself the sympathetic figure. She was finding herself. She was in a dark place. Will became the backdrop to her journey rather than a man who was genuinely hurt. What her own words also reveal is this. It was Will who eventually told her to go make yourself happy because he had exhausted himself trying. He disengaged emotionally first, and she still found a way to repackage his pain as her revelation and sell it to an audience. Some people point to their open marriage as justification, but an open arrangement only works when both people are equally informed, equally willing, and equally protected. Nothing about Will's behavior during that period suggested he was any of those things. The entanglement was not part of a betrayal. It was the moment the country saw confirmation that Will Smith was not an equal partner in his own marriage. He was a resource being managed. In 2023, Jada released her memoir, Worthy, and announced on her press tour that she and Will had been living separately since 2016, casually, publicly, on her timeline. There is also a moment caught on camera where Will says to her directly, "Don't just start filming me without asking me." She was using him as content inside their own home without his consent. The public performance was not just for television. It was happening in private too. By this point, Will was already one of the most humiliated men in Hollywood following the Oscar slap in 2022. That slap did not come from nowhere. It was the breaking point of a man whose dignity had been publicly stripped piece by piece for years. The slap was a symptom, and Jada was the condition. After the slap, she did not reach for him. She did not defend him. She sat still. She sat still. And in the days that followed, she said very little while the world turned on him completely. Completely. Then came the book. It did not stand beside him. It added more of her narrative to a pile that was already crushing him. And this needs to be said directly. Jada has no public platform without Will as the subject. Jada, you're not relevant without him. Her show, her book, her interviews, every major moment of her visibility has been built on his name, his pain, or his public humiliation. That is not a woman telling her story. That is a woman monetizing her husband. By the time the memoir tour ended, Will had lost his reputation, his Academy membership, and his marriage. Jada had a best-selling book. When you line up the full picture, a woman who entered her marriage already checked out, who aired her husband's humiliation against everyone's advice, who filmed him without consent, who stayed silent when he needed her most, and who built her entire public identity on his destruction. What you see is not a woman who was lost. You see a woman who always knew exactly what she was doing and chose herself every single time. Ladies, this is not the woman you want to model yourself after. Your marriage is not content. Your husband is not a platform. And the moment you start using your relationship to build your brand, you have already started burning your home down. If this video gave you something real to think about, please like it, share it, and leave a thoughtful comment. I want to hear your perspective on this matter. The clips related to everything I've discussed today are linked in the description. Watch them for yourself and see what you see. I'm Deborah. This is Family Still Matters. And because family still matters, God never designed marriage to be a stage. He designed it to be a sanctuary. When we treat our covenant like content, we don't just lose our marriage, we lose ourselves. Thank you for watching, and may God continue to richly bless you. God bless.